Good morning. My name is Susan Reardon. I'm calling the meeting of Wednesday, September 23rd to order. Today we have 4 items on our agenda, and there has been a proposal to switch items C and D, switch the review order. Item C is 110 West Solis Street, and item D is 714 and 716 North Voluntario Street. So we will now hear the Voluntario Street project before West Solis Street. There's no other changes, correct? Under announcements and appeals, last Thursday the Planning Commission held a hearing on an appeal for a project located at 617 Bradbury Avenue, and that appeal was on the approval of a tentative subdivision map and modifications, and that appeal was upheld and the project was denied. There's also been a suspension of a medical cannabis dispensary permit that was issued by the staff hearing officer at the last meeting, September 9th, I think it was. The address is 2 West Mission Street. It was suspended because it's uncertain whether there is actually a school within 500 feet of that facility. So it was suspended to research that. I'm not aware of any other announcements now. Okay. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to address the staff hearing officer on items not on our agenda? No, seeing no one. We will go on to the first item, which is 10 Eland's Place. Are you the applicant? Would you like to come up and sit at the table? Whenever you're ready.
Thank you. Project site is a 10,000 square foot A1 zoned lot with a 38% overall slope located in the T Fire rebuild area. The proposed project involves a 2-car garage accessed off Eland Place. Due to the slope constraints, this is going to be excavated. It'll be a lower level garage with a 2-story residence above. The proposed home is just under 3,000 square feet, which is about 1,300 square feet bigger than the previous 1-story development. The project has been designed to eliminate a previously existing encroachment of 7 feet here, but is asking to rebuild at the existing non-conforming setback of 5 feet. Due to window changes being proposed, which are appropriate for the architectural change of the rebuild, a modification is required to allow the alterations in the rebuilt non-conforming portion. Staff supports this request in that the window changes are appropriate for the architecture, and due to the fact that they are being proposed as fixed, odors and noises typically associated with kitchen activity are being mitigated. Staff does not support a second part of the project, which is asking for a minor encroachment on the new second floor to allow these bathroom amenities. Approximately 25 square feet of the new second-story portion of the residence also is asking for encroachment into the required 15-foot setback. It's the applicant's position that the previous development, shown here in the yellow outline, had much more encroachment into the setback, and that this minor amount could be supported on that basis. It's staff's position that the non-conforming rebuild allows for what we refer to as a twin sister to be replaced in the setback. And if you need minor tweaks and changes, particularly those that allow for better window, air circulation, lighting into the house, yes, we support those modifications, but we are not in the position to support new floor area over what previously existed. Our position is, with the vacant lot, a conforming option is a house that complies to the current setback requirements and is asking for this 25 square foot on the second floor of the residence to be denied, redesigned, or just reduced. It seems like the master bath and can still provide its purposes with the area in the setback removed.
Okay, great. Thank you. If you want to state your name and association with the project and any comments you'd like to add.
Good morning. My name is Bill Eisman. I'm here this morning representing Jeremy Lindeman, property owner at 10 Eland Place. Thank you, Roxanne, for that presentation. everything was accurate. I agree with that, and also thank you for helping guide this project along to this point. I appreciate your efforts. It's a pleasure working with you. I have read the staff report, and I do understand that staff is recommending approval for the first floor encroachment, not recommending approval for the second floor encroachment, as Roxanne has indicated. However, I would like for you to consider recommending both the first and second floor based on a few additional comments that I have this morning. The first being something that Roxanne touched on, but I'd like to actually add a little more of the technical data to it, and that is the original structure that sat on the site significantly, or I should say the new proposed design significantly decreases the amount of square footage that sits within those side yard setbacks. The staff report indicates there was 340 square feet that sat inside the southern setback. There also was an additional 120 square feet in the northern setbacks for a total of 460 square feet. We're proposing 178 square feet, which gives you a net loss or gain, however you want to look at it, of 382 square feet. So we're hoping that that's weighed in on when considering how we fit the new design into such a site with tough constraints. Second item is there was an opportunity for the southern property owner to review the design as proposed. They have reviewed and approved it, and that would be the property owner that would be most impacted by that encroachment if such impacts were determined would be occurred.
I believe their letter, it's Dan, his name's Dan
Yes.
Bolger. Yeah,
Yes.
I received a letter in the packet.
Okay, great. And then the last item, if if you were to deny the small encroachment on the second floor, there is some structural implications and construction costs that would be incurred by that, in that currently we're conventionally stacking the framing along the lower wall, which allows for this wall to distribute on the first floor wall, whereas if we have to pull that back, we'll have to throw or place a beam inside of this exterior wall, and then also some columns with some point loads. Furthermore, there would be some additional roof framing and finished roofing that would add to the construction cost of that. So with that said, again, I'm hoping we could receive approval for both the first and second floor modification, and Jeremy Lindeman is excited about moving forward with the process, and we're hoping we can do so. Thank you for your time, and obviously I'll answer questions that you have.
Okay. You had mentioned constraints. One of the thing with modifications we need to find is consistent with the zoning, the purposes and intent of the zoning ordinance. And one of the intents is to provide separation between buildings and adjacent properties. And you alluded to there is constraints on the site why you can't propose a conforming addition, and what, in your opinion, are those constraints?
Well, I mean, I guess the constraints are that the lot is, the slope of the lot is significant, first of all, and then with the 15-foot setbacks on such a narrow lot, it becomes a challenge, a design challenge to fit a floor plan within those constraints. So I think that's what I was alluding to, and I guess furthermore to build off of that, the first floor is encroaching significantly more, and so from a visual standpoint, this second floor encroachment is my belief that it wouldn't be noticeable as much as the first floor modification. Does that answer the question?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. I'd like to open the public hearing. Is there anyone here who would like to address the staff hearing officer on 10 Eland Place? No? I did receive a letter from Ms. Paula Westbury against the project. Did you receive that?
I did.
Okay. This is more of a cover sheet on... okay. I've been out to this area a number of times, and I've reviewed several modifications in this area. Most recently, the one immediately adjacent to your property where it received...
On the north.
Yeah. Is there an overall plan of the area?
There's no raw site plan, yes.
The vicinity map?
Aerial photograph?
Yeah.
Well,
The part, the part I am struggling with is that second-story addition, because in general, we don't support an additional floor area, especially second floor in the setback. And I know I have reviewed several projects in this area that have received interior yard setbacks. It's supposed to be a vicinity map with the, oh, here, I guess this might work.
Can you get a close-up of
there's
that?
actually a good graphic there, too, to clarify the visual impact. This is, from this line here to that line there, is the area that we're discussing.
Foot and a half?
1 foot 8, roughly. So you can see how it stacks back, and it actually helps articulate that southern elevation as well, so that that wall plane doesn't go from the entire distance back.
Mm-hmm. Well, here's an area, I don't know if the camera can, this is the project site right here. And I know I've reviewed this project, I reviewed this project, I reviewed one of these down here. This one actually is still standing, right?
No.
Is this how, or is the house?
Actually,
Is it this one, or when you come down around the corner, it's this one? Maybe it's this one I've reviewed this
yeah.
one.
I don't think there's any standing through here.
I don't, I am really struggling with how to find the second-story addition in the setback to be consistent with the zoning ordinance. I agree with the staff, their analysis of it, and I also understand your reasoning in that you are reducing the overall encroachment into the setbacks. However, they are first-floor setbacks. This is a new second floor. And the areas, or where I was going at with this, in the areas, I know we look at individual sites and the constraints on individual sites, and I'm trying to think of the other second-story additions that I've approved in the setbacks in this area, and I know this house has a second story, but it has significantly more constraints than your property in that it has a front yard 35 feet all the way around. And so it had significant more constraints than this one.
But they were allowed ultimately to encroach into that setback, correct, on the
Yes,
second floor.
Yes. With the finding of all the things, the combined two front setbacks, the slope. Trying to think what the other findings were. That was just recent. Like,
It became a very narrow, much narrower site than our
Than this
site.
one,
I saw
yeah.
that previously, yeah.
now, in terms of the windows in the setback, can you explain them to me?
Sure.
Here?
This is the window we're discussing. I'm sorry, it's this window.
This window on the first floor.
That's correct. And that is in the kitchen, and it will be a fixed window, as Roxanne pointed out in the initial presentation. There was a window previously approximately here of similar proportion in the original house. So we're asking to relocate that further to the east.
Okay, and these windows are fixed? Rating? Are they required to be a? It's a.
Right there. Oh yeah, that's actually in
this
the
is-
encroachment. Those are fixed windows. Yes.
And are
In
they
the bathroom?
Yeah, and they're eye level or how?
These are these two windows here, here and here. So this one could be fixed. Actually, that one would prefer to be operable in the bathroom. But the one at the end of the walk-in closet would be a fixed window.
Do you want to add something, Ms. Brooke? I heard you take a breath.
I just wanted to reiterate that we do certainly recognize that there were encroachments on the first floor before, and they certainly are reducing that, and that's definitely going towards a more conforming option on the site. And so, as Roxanne said, we don't have concerns with the first floor encroachments. The second floor is really a clean slate in terms of this development because there wasn't a second floor before, and so we're really wanting to see a conforming option here. And the findings for the modification are that the modification is necessary to secure an appropriate improvement on the lot, and our position is that an appropriate improvement on this lot could be made without the modification. So I don't know if that, just restating our position on that, if that helps you in your deliberation at all, the findings for that.
Thanks. That's where I'm coming from, is that I don't see that there's a significant enough of a constraint to have the pop out, and I agree it's very minor. I just feel that there are other options that are conforming with the zoning ordinance, and I feel I can't support the second story portion of the project.
Okay.
So with that, I make the findings outlined in the staff report and approve the window changes in the first floor and deny the requested encroachment for the second floor. This does state findings and conditions, but I don't see...
I don't either. I think that was a typo.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, my action is appealable to the Planning Commission within 10 calendar days, and that appeal is filed here at 630 Garden Street at the planning counter. They also have oversight authority, and they review my agenda, and they can decide to call this up if it warrants, additional discussion or creates policy issues.
Okay.
And that's that same 10-day appeal period.
Okay.
All right?
Thank you very much.
The next item is 401 West De La Guerra Street and 718 Castillo Street, if the applicant would like to come up. Did you take the other plan, Rob?
781.
Oh, I'm sorry. I said 718, huh? Yes, 781 Castillo. Anytime you're ready. Pardon? Anytime you're ready.
Suzanne Regal, case planner for the project at 401 West De La Guerra and 781 Castillo Street. The project is a conversion of 2 existing units. They are currently under construction and nearing final inspection and have not yet reached certificate of occupancy. With that, staff had to prepare a memorandum because she did not clearly put it in the staff report how the project complies with the new condominium standards. There's a provision in the condominium conversion ordinance that talks about if you have a building permit issued and you have had certificate of occupancy in less than 5 years, you would need to comply with the new condominium standards in addition to any of the condo conversion standards. So I'm going to walk through the project and let you know how it meets the standards. Parking is one of the standards, and they are currently providing, and it might be easier to see on the actual site plan. Each unit, the Castillo Street would be here, and De La Guerra Street, no, De La Guerra's here, Castillo Street's here.
No, Castillo Street's here.
Yeah,
Because there's
I got it reversed, sorry.
Castillo's there and De La Guerra.
There it goes here. I'm looking at it differently than I normally do. 2-car garage for the Castillo Street address, 2-car garage for the De La Guerra address. They have a stackable washer and dryer here and washer and dryer here. So they have laundry for each particular unit. They have separate utility meters, and there's a meter box on the back side here, as well as, and that actually shows better on the tentative map. Their gas line comes back here. There's an electric meter box here, and the water meters are out here on the street with the sewer connections. Each yard, or each unit, has their separate private yard back here. They are proposing to put a fence in between each unit to give them each a 10 by 20 private outdoor living space. They are using the 15% method to provide their open yard for the entire lot, which does allow them to include setbacks. They are meeting and exceeding 15%. And what else do we have? Obviously, with the size constraints of the lots, there is not room to store a recreational vehicle, so that has been added as a condition of approval. We've also added a condition of approval, a new condition, A7, and I have a copy of a revised conditions here. To add a condition 8.7 that prohibits it doesn't prohibit, the property owners waive their right to protest the future formation of a public improvement district. The owners are agreeable to that. There were some changes that were required by the Public Works Engineering Division with regards to the driveway approaches. The driveway off of De La Guerra had a alley standard curb cut for the driveway before. They have gone through Public Works and they have actually, you've completed that,
Yes.
that change to a standard driveway curb cut. With that, staff feels that the project meets all the standards and requirements of the condo conversion and new condominium standards, and requests that you make the findings that are listed in the staff report on page 6,
Okay,
and
great.
subject to the revised conditions of approval.
Okay, great, thank you.
And we have received one letter from the public.
All right. And if you'd like to state your name in association with the project and anything you'd like to add.
My name's Dave Karshner. I'm one of the owners.
Stephen Morey, I'm one of the owners. Stephen Morey, I'm one of the owners.
Is there anything you'd like to add?
She didn't talk about the trash enclosures, but
Oh,
they're
I skipped
also
that.
on there.
Okay. Can you describe how you envision the open areas working, the open yard? There's just this.
There's a landscape plan at the back.
Oh, there's the, on this plan, you can see a fence right there. And you have access from the A unit through here and the B unit through here, which is off of the dining rooms, so makes it kind of nice for a little outdoor area.
Now, there's a balcony, so there's one here and one in the front. Okay. I'd like to open the public hearing. Is there anyone here who would like to address the staff hearing officer on 401 West De La Guerra and 781 Castillo Streets? Seeing no one. Like what Ms. Riegel said, we received one letter from Paula Westbury stating don't subdivide and don't convert the property. I'll close the public hearing. I went out to the site and I ran into you then. Seeing you here, it's like, yeah, you're out there cleaning. And walked around the neighborhood, try to get an idea of the, the surroundings. I think this site, it's under construction. It's, meets the standards. I think it is appropriate for conversion. The one concern I have is with the open area. It is pretty tight on the site. It's built setback to setback, and it has the one area. But that's more of a marketing issue because it does meet the ordinance. It's divided, seems fairly. And so I believe I can make the findings outlined in the staff report. I believe I can make the findings outlined in the staff report and approve the project subject to the conditions of approval as revised today.
Thank you.
next item, since we switched D and C, is 714 and 716 North Voluntario Street. The applicant would like to come up.
Thanks, Suzanne.
Thank you. Is Alex not here? Is Alex coming?
Alex, just calling me. He's on his way from his office.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Making sure I have the right set of plans.
What's the name?
Yeah. That's why I try to write on what meeting we're dealing with.
Okay, anytime you're ready. Oh, sorry. Covered your notes.
This project is also a 2-unit condo conversion. It's taking 2 existing single-family residents and converting them to condominiums. The existing house in the front is a 1-story residence with a garage underneath and some storage area. Through the DART process, we became aware that it has some need to have some seismic retrofit, which can be done from the interior. It would not create any exterior change whatsoever. And then we have a 2-story, 5-bedroom unit at the rear. In my staff report, I discuss how this project meets and exceeds the private outdoor living space no matter which method you use under our ordinance for multifamily residential, using the method A, private outdoor living space method, or the method B, common open space area. They meet and exceed it. Each of the units have their own laundry facilities, are separately metered for water, gas, electric. They have separate sewer connections. And what else do I have? The unit size, one of the findings for condominium conversion is the unit size exceeds 600 square feet per unit. This well exceeds that. That there's no sound transmission between units. They're single-family residents. There's no common walls or ceilings. The private storage space needs to be at least 200 cubic feet. The 1-story residence at the front has over 1,000 cubic feet of storage, and the one at the rear has, I believe, it's about 288 cubic feet.
And where are those?
I believe that they have it shown. So, yeah, that's for the front house. And then it's on the floor plan for the rear. He has storage cabinets and space in the garage, and he gave me the values to let me know that they do meet the 288 cubic feet. All the appliances, the applicant will provide written notice to each of the potential buyers that the appliances are working order at the time of the sale, and there are no public easements that were required as of this condo conversion or existed previously. The physical elements report did not call out any items that needed to be repaired prior to the conversion. Everything has a useful life of more than 5 years. And this does not need to meet the handicap accessibility and adaptability requirements because it's less than 5 units being converted. So with all that, and the fact that it meets all other zoning requirements for the R2 zone, staff recommends that you approve the condo conversion permit and the tentative subdivision map, making the findings that are outlined in the staff report on page 6 and 7, and subject to the conditions of approval in Exhibit A.
Okay, now you were saying for the private outdoor living space, it meets either method. Where's the 15 by 15
There you go.
area?
Alex actually provided a site plan showing meeting method A up in the top right-hand corner, and down at the bottom meeting the method B common open space area. So there's a 15 by 15 common area here, private outdoor living space here and here, and there's also some patios, I believe, on the second floor.
But the 15 by 15 area, that's sloped with a tree right now, right? It's, well, I can let Alex, let the applicant do their presentation, and then if you want to introduce yourself, state your name for the record.
Yes, I'm Alex Pusho, the architect for the project. And yes, we do have, I think we meet here, this is the layout of how we meet the
Method A.
Method 8 living areas, the different areas. And on top of that, we do have other space that is very usable, but it's beyond, which would be the front porch in the first unit, and the also the deck on the unit in the back,
Yes.
which is really very, very useful. It's really what they plus a little plus a little roof deck as well. This should be the actually too. This is a very nice balcony facing that, and the balcony in the back. Plus, there's another rooftop deck. So,
Yeah, I'm just trying to...
there's no which is right here, So there's no shortage of usable living space.
If you move that 15 by 15 back, I'm sure you could eliminate the tree.
I remember it being sloped. This is where those chairs, I went out to the site yesterday, or
Monday.
Monday, walked around. And this area is where those chairs were, or was it more over by... I don't see a picture of those
are over
that
here.
in that private area. Okay.
Yeah, they're kind of in this rectangle through here.
And that way. Oh, here's the area. Okay, well, I'll let you finish what you were going to...
Yeah, we thought about we could also meet the open air requirement using the method B as well, but this is more like the way the property is used and the more logical way.
Okay.
It seems like the front and the back, right, and share an area that doesn't seem to be the way it works. This unit also has the front patio, which is a very nice place to look at the street. Yes, it's a very pleasant place as well, which is perhaps used more than the one in the back, but that one meets the requirements. That's how we went with these calculations. I don't have much to say. It's been built for a while. It has a good landscape plan. All the utilities are there. The parking is there. I read the report. We agree with the conditions. We're a little blown away by the amount of the fees. $36,000. But that's I guess that's the way it is. I don't have anything else to add.
Okay. Do you want to just state your name for the record so it gets that you're...
Alfred Frank Kelly.
And Marilyn Kelly.
Thank you. I'd like to open the public hearing. Is there anyone here who would like to address the staff hearing officer on 714 and 716 North Voluntario Street? No?
We did have a letter.
Okay. Yeah, saw this one. Okay. Yeah, this is, we received a letter from Paula Westbury regarding this project and against the project. I went out to the site, and Miriam showed me around, thank you. Looked around the neighborhood. And my main concern or comment was the same as the one before, it's just how the open area works. And it will be a matter of choice of who buys this and who lives there, on if the open area works for them. And it meets and exceeds the common area, or the method B, and I think even under A it has adequate area. It's nicely designed. It's kept up really nice. I think it is appropriate for a conversion, and therefore I make the findings outlined in the staff report and approve your project subject to the conditions as outlined in the staff report. And as I said, as you heard in the other two projects, that my action is appealable to the Planning Commission within 10 calendar days. They also have the oversight authority, and they review my agenda. And if they feel it raises some kind of policy issue or requires review at their level, they can also call it up during that same 10-day appeal period. And if that were to occur, Ms. Riegel would contact you guys.
Great.
Okay?
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Sure. The next project is 110 West Sola Street. Does the applicant would like to come up?
Different, same.
We can use those.
Okay. I won't.
Hey,
Hello.
welcome back.
Thank you.
Anytime you're ready, Suzanne.
Okay. The project here is at 110 West Sola, which fronts Sola and Chapala Streets. The project was last reviewed by the staff hearing officer on May 20th of this year. At that review, we reviewed a mitigated negative declaration, and that document got approved, and the staff hearing officer gave direction for the applicant to go back and study some parking issues and setback issues related to the property towards the north and the driveway of the Upham Hotel on the west. Alrighty, so one thing I wanted to note, we went through the conditions of approval since the document was posted on the website and noted that some of the items that were in the mitigation measure report program did not get caught up into the conditions of approval. So I have gone through and in underline and strike through form added those conditions into the conditions of approval document.
This is consistent with several other projects as well.
Correct. Furthermore, since the last review, the applicant has gone through and made changes to the northerly and westerly elevations and a little bit on the southerly elevation, which he can explain further, all of his changes. But I believe that it has addressed most of the concerns of the staff hearing officer. This project is also a new condominium development, and we did not include a condition of approval that the property owner waives the right to the future formation of a public improvement district. So that has been added into the conditions of approval document as well.
And you might explain what that means for the benefit of the owner. And just briefly, what it means is if you want to expand the parkways, or
If they,
as I understand it.
my understanding is if they wanted to do a public improvement district to improve drainage or sidewalks or anything at that time, and they did some kind of a special assessment, they could go ahead and do that, and you would be included in that. You would waive the right to protest that improvement district. That's my understanding. So I'd like the applicant to go through and show you each of the changes so that I don't miss any.
Okay.
Great, thank you.
Yeah,
Could you state your name for the record?
Yes.
We know who you are, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Jeff Burrell with Lindick and Minor Architects, and John McManus
Okay.
is representing one of the two owners of the property where they intend to do 4 condominium units and occupy 2 of them as owner builders, and then the 2 center ones will be for market. And just as a brief background, the owners have owned this property for many, many years, with founding the Magellan's marketing store for travel supplies, and have retired in recent years. We've been working on this project now for almost 2 years, and they're looking very forward to making this a reality and being able to leave their homes in Montecito and live downtown. They've chosen to do the project with less density than is allowed, and that is in respect for the adjacent historical buildings. And we provided some substantial setbacks. The Historical Landmarks Committee has been in support of the project, and the setbacks and the mass bulk and scale and so forth, as you know. The initial study has shown that this proposed project is superior to the existing project that currently resides on the site. Staff has supported the project from the beginning and continues to support the project, which they state conforms with the city ordinance, the general plan policies, mass bulk and scale is compatible with the neighborhood. And we've been working with the northerly neighbors who had some issues with the project, and we now have their full support. And in the course of the presentation, I'll show you what we have agreed to that is not presently shown on the plans, but I do have an exhibit that I could show you that we could enter in as part of the record.
Okay.
Okay. Changes from the last part, just a quick overview on the ground floor. The Upham setback, which was supportable by staff and by the HLC on the westerly side, we've doubled the setback that we had previously, and that continues to be supported by staff. In doing so, we had a two-drive entrance into the parking garage, and in pulling that back, that allowed us to really work with a single entry drive, which you're allowed to do under 25 cars. And that increased the amount of landscaping that we have on the site, so by roughly 1,280 square feet or something like that. So the property has provided to the community over 27% of the property is devoted to landscape now. In addition to that, there was a emergency stair on this side of the property that the building department originally said would be required as part of the emergency exiting from the bedroom windows out the back of the unit. We went to the effort to get the fire department and the building department together in a meeting and talk about this, and came up with a solution that eliminates the need for the stair.
I was also present at that meeting.
Yes. On the second floor, we really truly completely redesigned the second floor, while at the same time trying to maintain that the aesthetic design approvals that we've had. We felt, as you know the process, that would be a horrible mistake to completely change that and start over there. So the challenge was to reduce the amount of square footage on the units and maintain that exterior elevation. On the other hand, on the northerly elevation, and with that plan throughout the change, we've radically changed that elevation to reduce the mass bulk and scale in response to yourself and in response to the northerly neighbors. So again, we've taken care, we think, of the privacy issues, and the northerly neighbors are in support. On the third floor, I think the only issue that had come up was to define those third floor spaces, which I'll walk you through, which we have now done. And there's one issue with the open railing versus a solid railing, that the northerly neighbor would like to have solid railings, and we've agreed to do that as well. And that's not shown on the plans, but we can certainly make that a part of the record. So with that, let's get to the plan. There's your overview. And on a larger scale, we'll walk you through those changes. This is the westerly side facing the Upham driveway and their back of house trash and so forth. And we've doubled that setback now to 10 feet along this line, and that has reduced the amount of paving that we've had and to a single entry into the parking garage. And in pulling that back, we lost one car from what we had shown previously, and then we had devoted a stall to an electric cart. We had talked about that last, that it's the intentions of the owners that live here that both serve on different charities and different boards, and they want to live downtown so that they can walk, but there's times when they go in different directions and they do need two cars. And of course, when you go down to the grocery store and say you're shopping for the week, what would make sense? What would make common sense for getting there as opposed to jumping in your car is an effort to keep the cars here. And the solution that we came up with was, let's provide an electric cart. And that way you can walk downtown, but if you need to do shopping where you've got more than you can carry, that would make sense to have an electric cart. The stair was removed along here, so this has now all become landscape. That's essentially it for the ground floor at this time in this plan. And then I'll describe to you what we've done along here when I'm done to accommodate.
So just to point out, the setback line is shown here at 19 feet 9 inches.
Yes,
which is right
we are
here.
still requesting a modification for 9 foot 9 inches. And then on the second floor, that was pulled back to 10 feet, and then we also reduced the amount of wall on the second floor that was facing the driveway, and carved this area out where we've got a patio and then single-story roof and single-story roof here. We redesigned the floor plan in unit number 4, one of the owner-occupied units, to have indoor-outdoor living with their patio here set back about 5 feet from the property line, and then that would be a 6 to 7 foot high wall there, so that would respect the privacy from both sides. As you might recall, we had the exit pathway and patio railings on the property line,
Right.
and you had requested that we push them back, and I believe we had talked about 4 feet
Right.
or so. Well, this is 5 feet back. The privacy issue we feel has been resolved here. We completely flipped the outdoor space that you would use every day to the SOLA side, and reoriented our kitchen and dining room activities and living room activities off of those patios to the front. We had hallways that went back to what was that space to use. That hallway is gone, so now we have, for the 2 center units, 2 private, quiet patios that would be off of the bedrooms for these folks' use. And through negotiation with a northerly neighbor, now we are going to be, we've acquiesced to 5 foot by 17 foot cutout here that would provide landscaping and a further buffer for these 2 private units. And if I might show you briefly here, and if it's your choice, we could enter this in as part of the public record, because, as I say, we have agreed to this. And what you're looking at here is the northerly neighbor here, and above the ground floor level are those 2 private patios. So we've recessed this in so that we have a tree and landscaping there. I worked through this to see that I lost 1 more parking space, so 2 cars gone from the previous review that you had seen. The minimum number of cars allowed for the commercial spaces, I believe, was it 6? What was it? 5. So we're now 1 more car than that. We're 6. I believe it was 5. And then I was also this allowed me also to keep a spot for the electric cart, which we think makes good sense and will be used. Again, the stairwell is gone. We had all open patios here, so that we feel has addressed the issues and concerns and gone beyond your concerns that we had talked about at the last hearing. We're now 10 feet back for these private patios. And then the front patio was not an issue. I am showing some railing across the top here. We have agreed with the northerly neighbor that we would have no railing above 42 inches on the second and third floor, so solid 42-inch railings. So we will do that. We've agreed to that, and we feel that we can work through that aesthetic issue with the Historic Landmarks Committee. And then on the third floor, again for orientation, this is the footprint of the northerly building and the footprint of their garage and back. This is an open parking lot, and then this is their driveway here. Again, this will be notched out all the way to the sky. What you're looking at here is the roof below. Further definition of the patios was requested, and that's what we're showing here. These would be about a 36 to 42 inch, and we're going to agree to 42 inches, facing wherever we're facing the Institute's property. So aesthetically, I felt it looked better to have the railing in here, and we're going to heavily landscape this out with green, but we have agreed to make that solid, and we'll deal with it. So any of these planes that you see on these upper patios, and there would be 1 and 2 that we had railings here, and 3 we would make solid. Let's see what I've got here. So just as a quick overview here of the westerly property line, this is a picture of the current Magellan's building, and I think that peak roof you came in is on the property line and up around, I don't know what it is, 35 feet at the peak, something like that. And now we've set that back. These trees will remain in place and are the property of the Upham Hotel, and then we'll have landscaping in that area. So I've got more pictures if you want to.
I think they were included in this set.
Okay, so if you need to see more,
Okay.
or you're curious on that, we can delve into it, but I don't want to take up too much time if we all have a good understanding of that. And if I might go to back to the elevations. Go to the elevations. Just quickly, the Sola side, you can see where we now have these outdoor patios facing Sola, but we worked hard at maintaining that existing aesthetic that we had before. So, if we get to a picture here that will help us. This is the elevation that's facing the northerly commercial neighbor, their driveway, and then the parking lot is back here. What I've done this time was dashed in the height of the existing brick wall to give us a reference. And I know you had expressed a concern about the height of the wall that we had along here and the proximity of that railing being directly on the property line. As you can see, we've eliminated the wall issues, and we have set back a substantial amount and brought down roof line, which would be aesthetically more appealing. The Institute has agreed to them. So here's a picture of standing in the parking lot and looking back at the height of the wall and the improvement in aesthetic that we have made. Let me show you again this plan. This is, and these railings would be solid on the third floor. I don't know which would be easier for you to look at, this way or this way. But anyway, you
I
get the
know,
idea.
Jim, yeah.
Okay. So the tree that you're looking at here is the existing tree that's on the Institute's property. So this wall length, open wall length, is about 68 feet. So indenting this, 25% of the wall length is what we have indented. And the Institute has reviewed this, and that would be about here. And that then would allow a substantial tree that we would put in that would further mitigate anyone out on their quiet patio. And then also at ground level, where there is no landscaping along this driveway, we could plant landscaping at ground level. And as you look down the driveway, either way, again, this is the tree on the Institute property. Even though the wall is down here and we're looking at roof tile, we'll be breaking up that length of wall for a better aesthetic to the neighbor. Do you need to see any more?
No, I think that's good.
Okay.
So with the applicant's presentation, staff recommends that you approve the modification, the tentative subdivision map for new condominiums, and make the findings in the staff report, as well as make it subject to the revised conditions that were handed out today.
Okay, great, thank you.
Speaking to the public comment?
Yeah, I was going to open the public comment. That's fine. Is there anyone here who would like to address the staff hearing officer on 110 West Stola Street? I see we have a request to speak form. Kirk Gradine. And is this the letter you brought too?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And a lot of that was already covered by what Jeff just explained. So I'll just very briefly comment that, first of all, I'm representing the Institute of World Culture, which is on the adjacent property to the north, as Jeff was referring. And we were contacted by the owners and by Jeff shortly after we got the agenda for this project, and we had a chance to meet with them and discuss the changes they had made, and also address any other issues that we had. And again, as a kind of a summary of that, we were very appreciative of the changes that had been made. The reduction in the patio sizes in those two middle units, the reduction of the window areas facing the Institute, the lowering of the height of this zero setback garage wall, and the roof elements that breaks up that elevation further, and definition of the patios at the third floor, and also and the elimination of that walkway, and that was huge. There was all to the benefit of the Institute and the impact, the visual and privacy impacts. We also discussed trying to provide some a landscape area on the property line border, and again, the owners and architect were very accommodating and offered to create that space that Jeff just defined, which basically would occur right in this area here. And then the solid railings at the second and third level, as opposed to some of the open railings that were shown there. And but other than that, we believe that that Jeff and the owners have addressed all the issues and concerns we had, and that it's acceptable in terms of its impact to the Institute. So,
Okay, great.
thank you.
Sure. Let me just this over real quick to see if I have a question for clarification.
Okay, sure.
Okay, yeah, so your concerns now with the recess, with the guardrails, so they've all been addressed.
Yes. Well, one thing that is not yet on the plans, that's the very last item in that letter, but it's been an item that we've discussed with Jeff, and it's really an HLC issue, is providing a 6-foot high fence of some type along this property line to screen the commercial windows from the Institute property. And so that's the only thing that's not shown on the plan or indicated today.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, great, thank you.
All right, thanks.
Is there anyone else who would like to address the staff hearing officer on 110 West Sola Street? No? Okay. We did receive a letter from Ms. Paula Westbury in opposition to the project. You received it?
No.
Okay. So I close the public hearing. I reviewed the staff report and reviewed the plans, and I think you did a great job responding to my concerns and issues. I think it's a very nice project. I thought it was nice before. We just needed some changes, and I think they adequately respond to what my concerns were. The privacy between the two properties, or the three properties, the increased setback respecting the Upham, the parking. I know you still have the garage within the garage, but I think that's fine in this situation, given all the other changes. That this project is consistent with our guidelines, the urban design guidelines, the topology guidelines, the general plan. And like you said, the density, you're not using variable density. This is density that's just allowed by the zone. So you could have more units here, and you've chosen not to. I also appreciate, I've noticed the reduction in the unit sizes.
About 12%.
Yeah, and all the increases in the setbacks. So I can make the findings in the staff report. I do need to add a finding, though, regarding environmental review. I adopted the ND at the last hearing, as you know, and in improving a project, I do need to show that there's environmental review, and I've used that prior adopted final mitigated negative declaration in reviewing this project. So I have a proposed finding for it. And what it states is the staff hearing officer has considered the final mitigated negative declaration adopted on May 20th, 2009 for the project. In the staff hearing officer's independent judgment and analysis based on the whole of the record, there is no substantial evidence that the project will have a significant effect on the environment. Mitigation measures identified in the final mitigated negative declaration that would avoid or reduce all potentially significant impacts to less than significant levels have been included in the project or made a condition of approval. Additional mitigation measures to minimize adverse but less than significant environmental effects have also been included as conditions of approval. So that would be the environmental finding for this. And so that would be a new finding A. And then the interior setback modification would be finding B. And in regards to finding B, I wanted to make it a little more definitive on, I don't know in the computer if it comes up the same, the fourth line from the bottom where the sentence starts, HLC stated the subject setback. I just wanted to cross out HLC stated and just definitive said the subject setback modification would not result in a negative aesthetic impact to the Upham Hotel. So after impact, you'd add to the Upham Hotel. Okay. And then the next sentence, it says, currently it says, the interior setback modification may be granted because it is, I want to strike out may be granted. It's the interior setback modification is consistent with the purposes and intent of the zoning ordinance and is necessary to secure an appropriate improvement on the lot. So just strike out the words may be granted because it. And then the tentative subdivision map would be C, and then new residential condominiums would be D. And I think the intro of number 1, where it says with the proposed modification, I think we can cross out that part of the sentence because what this finding is saying is that your project complies with the provisions of the subdivision ordinance, which is 2713, and modifications are in Chapter 28, and that modification is covered under the tentative subdivision map, where it says, as conditioned with all other approvals, the tentative subdivision map complies with all requirements and conditions imposed by the MAP Act and our code.
Mr. Reardon, I think there's something in the city's condo ordinance that says it has to comply with zoning, which is why we left that in there. I'll see if we have a zoning ordinance here.
Yeah, because I was looking at it, and the part that I saw with the zoning ordinance is regarding the tentative map, because when you do a condo conversion, you have the tentative map, and so the zoning consistency is in there. All right. I don't know if you want the written one of the new finding, that's fine.
Okay, thanks.
In regards to the conditions, G3. On G,
You can strike it
okay, so that is,
with the proposed modification to be eliminated.
yeah, so it just says the proposed, or the project plan. And then with, on the staff report that was online, page 9 of 15 for the conditions of approval, and then the new ones you just gave me, it's on page 10 of 18. It talks about maintenance of the
Stormwater.
yeah. It says as outlined in condition, and it has just asterisks. Above, it says, maintenance of these facilities shall be provided by the owner as outlined in condition, asterisk actually above, which shall include,
Which condition is that?
That's condition.
oh, I'm sorry, G3. That works too. G3 on page 9 of 15 of the online staff report.
This one.
So if we just fill in which condition that one is.
Right there, condition.
Yeah. But it goes to condition D5 on the one that's on the line.
D5 online. And then which one on your revised conditions is the same numbered?
Still D5.
It's still D5.
Okay. I think that was the only other change. I noted that the noise conditions have been put in here, and the
Correct. And
The
you'll note that
historic-
anything that is part of the mitigation,
it has the little
it has the
number
lettering of what
which one it was.
mitigation measure it is at the end
Okay,
of the condition.
great. So with that, I make the findings, the revised findings as outlined in the staff report, and approve your project subject to the revised conditions of approval.
Yay!
My action is appealable within 10 calendar days to the Planning Commission. They also have oversight authority, and they can review all my actions, and if they believe this warrants additional discussion before then, they have the ability to call us up during the same 10-day period.
Okay. Well, we really appreciate it, and couldn't have done it without great owners. So,
Yeah, thank you. And I adjourn
thanks
the
very
meeting.
much.
That's my
You-
copy.
You made